So over the past year, I've been still heavily plugged into the astrophotography environment on forums and, of course, watching tons of YouTube videos, even though I didn't make that many myself. About 4 or 5 months ago, a product came out, this Celestron Origin, and I gotta admit, I was pretty excited when I first heard about this, but then I looked at it, dug a little deeper into it, and after watching hours of just the thick tongue bathing videos that were out there about it, I really had some questions for myself, and I had a lot of thoughts that I wanted to put out there. And now, since it's June and this was supposed to come out in May, I think it's a good time to talk about some of that stuff. So, what is this thing? Everybody knows this is like a $4,000 RASA 6 with a super small camera that is basically what they call an electronic assisted astronomy. And this is how long I've been in this, because I always hated that name. If you look on cloudy nights here, I remember when this used to be called something else, this part of the forum, and you could see how childish everything got that says electronically assisted astronomy, no post processing at all. There's a lot of childishness that went on back in those days. The whole live stacking thing with Sharp Cap was in its infancy. We were taking like $100 security cameras and removing IR filters and all that kind of stuff to try to get like 15-second exposures of Orion, whatever. And that evolved and evolved and evolved. And it's kind of came into its own, what we have today. And this product here, I think, is definitely a culmination of all that stuff if it all works right. Like, to me, I would like to have the 6-inch RASA, and that's it. I don't trust anything else that this thing would work. I don't even trust the 6-inch RASA that it's going to work. Knowing I owned an 8-inch RASA, I needed to call Celestron and talk to them about it. Nobody knew any of the stuff that I was talking about, even though that I knew that there had been like at least 2 or 3 production runs. There had been changes to the centering rings and stuff that were provided with the newer versions. I wanted those. The staff wasn't aware of that. I sent it back into them, hoping I would get some upgraded parts, and I pretty much got back my RASA cleaned and collimated, where a couple days later the front corrector plate literally came out. So I had to do it all over again myself, and that was history. So that's just what we're dealing with here. And when you think about this company and where they were back in the 70s and 80s, like Mr. Spock and SCTs on the beach, like go look at some of their advertisements and stuff, compared to like this, it's pretty sad. There's a lot of technology that's got to work right in order for this thing to go. And judging by the fact that it's not out yet, and they've obviously got lots and lots of pre-orders, it definitely makes me happy that I didn't have money to plop down for an impulse buy. One of the biggest red flags right off the bat is the camera. It's such a small sensor for a RASA, and I'm guessing the reason why they did it is a couple things. Obviously, the RASA 6, and it's going to have the smaller sensor, so you're only going to be able to do these like smaller exposures. So having a smaller sensor and having it be more sensitive and fast and stacking those over and over is going to be fine. But it's also going to hide all of the possible shit show that's going on outside of that center area, because a RASA image can fall off the rails really quick if things are out of alignment, tweaks, issues, things like that. Considering this thing has a thing like automatic dew heater control and all that stuff, filter drawer, things getting moved around, the Celestron autofocuser, how many people do you know are using those on your actual rigs versus ZWO EAF? The Evolution mount, when it came out, I don't know if it's still true, horrible Wi-Fi issues. So if you've got a machine that is supposed to connect to your iPhone and an application, then like, you know, that's a pretty big red flag right there, right off the bat. I've seen some of the live stack pictures that they've done, and if you zoom in and look at the times, you know, 160 by 15 seconds, and of course, these images are going to look great anyway. I mean, you can just plug these things into PIXINSIGHT and just play with things until your heart's content. So, but the RASA 6 and its speed still isn't the end all be all as far as like going deep. When I had my RASA and my Hyperstar, I was not as skilled as I am now. I think maybe at the end of the Hyperstar, I kind of was, but like I always thought that it was best to have like thousands of like 1 minute or 2 minute subs and stack those all together. And that kind of photography works. But when I really unleashed the power and started doing like 2 minute, 4 minute, 5 minute, even 10-minute exposures, I don't really know if my AVX would do really good. And we didn't have like blur exterminator and all that stuff. We need to pop some of my old RASA pictures on the PIXINSIGHT one day and play with them. But point being is that you just would have never got anything like this. That was rambling. I don't really know where I went with that. I think my biggest problem with the whole thing is that so many people really talked about and like say reviewed this piece without it even being in anybody's hands at all, I think, except for very few select testers at Celestron. And I am all about this path versus things like the C-Star and stuff. But hey, whatever gets you into astrophotography, that is definitely, you know, awesome. I love it. But just because it has this camera that could be replaceable doesn't mean that if this thing flops, they're gonna just magically make another camera that can pop on the front of there. The other thing to think about as well is that since you're only dealing now with a 6-inch corrector, you know, you really can't put a super large sensor on there. So if they would have went right off the bat with something like a 183 sized sensor, everything just probably would have been beautiful and really worked out. The other thing that is kind of confusing still to me is looking at this is how the dew shield actually comes off and you can change the filters. Maybe somebody has done a video about that, probably Celestron, because I don't think they sent these out to anybody. The cable routing as well. I know you're going to get a little bit of star flare just with that cable routing right there. There's definitely better ways to do that. They were probably better off to go vertically. That way you could have at least got like a diffraction spike out of it. I'm not sure. We'll just have to see how it goes. Tripod, obviously not super sturdy, but since we're doing like 15, 20, 30-second exposures anyway. And then, of course, here is the business end of everything. And I guess if the price on all of this would have been a little bit better, like I know when you add it all up, you know, you're kind of, and it's hard to believe that that is zoomed in that close on the helix. I don't know. I guess that probably would have been about right. Same thing there. I mean, they're not lying. They're saying this is what it is, but great astronomy tool for everybody. Problem is, serious people aren't going to buy this. Families aren't going to pay $4,000 for this, and we're going to be kind of stuck with a great idea that could have been executed, I think, a lot better and attracted more of a high-end audience. And I think that would have paid off a little bit more in the long run. You're going to have a lot of early adapters. Man, I really hope that things work out for them, but I just see a lot of stuff, and I know personally just a lot of stuff that has to go right on this thing for it to even produce the results that they are promising, let alone stretch it out and to make it something where you could do 20 or 30 minutes on a single target of 15 to 20-second exposures and get a really great high quality image. It's totally possible, that's for sure. But there's just so much that has to go right with this thing. And I don't think a lot of the people, I don't really know if the people doing the reviews or first looks or whatever a few months ago really made that big of an impact, because when it comes down to it, a lot of people saw it was $4,000 and was like, yeah, no way. But I could be totally wrong, and this thing could just come out and blow the socks off of everybody. I know, looking at that Cloudy Nights forum, there's definitely a lot of people that are not that excited about this, because a lot of them are bargain hunter shoppers on there. It's a very entertaining forum. I advise everybody to go and check it out and just kind of go back and read some of the stuff and some of the things that just kind of pop up every now and then on there. Anyway, old memories. Got to let that go, Chad. Those times are long gone. Anyway, I hope this product succeeds. I doubt it will. Buyer beware. I'd love to play with one night and just, see what happens with it, but I'm not going to spend that kind of money on it, that's for sure. Rasa 6, wouldn't mind having one of those. Only if it had all those gadgets on it, though, and it worked. Like, I wouldn't want to build another Rasa from scratch, because all that stuff is kind of a pain in the ass. And then you got to hope that you don't mess it up and ruin the high-speed optics that are in it. So I'll just stick with a Newt. Yeah, small Newt for sure.